Isolation, in its very concept, is an art form. It is a setting piece, a status of one's being. The subject matter of being a single creature in the vast world of nothingness has long been portrayed in many forms of media, from paintings depicting vast landscapes that only seem to inhabit one person, to books forming paragraphs detailing a protagonist as they navigate a destitute world. The concept of isolation is a narrative piece present in all forms of art, and this rings true for video games as well. Playing as an avatar as they navigate through a vast and mysterious land, wondering if they truly are the only one around. Which brings me to a question. When you think of isolation, what video game comes to mind? What game does your mind believe is the perfect definition of isolation? Immersion is a term that comes up frequently when talking about video games, and how gameplay and world building can make the player feel drawn in to the game they are playing. So I ask you, what game makes you feel isolated? Isolation in its entirety may best be represented in the horror genre of video games. For many, isolation, to be alone, can be synonymous with fear, and the fear of being alone is a theme that the horror genre does well, whether it be the sin-punishing town of Silent Hill, or even aboard the wrecked state of the Ishimura, maybe even down the alleyways of Raccoon City. One can feel that they might not truly be the only being left in these worlds, though this ideal is usually coupled with the fear of the possibility of not being alone. Ghouls, spirits, and the unknown can all be around the corner in horror games like Dead Space, Silent Hill, and Resident Evil. While the theme of isolation is present, it also carries the fear of the possible encounter, thus blending the fear of isolation and survival. I feel these games and many more of the horror genre do a fantastic job of making the player feel like they might be alone, and maybe they're not. Isolation in this form is a unique idea, as it reverses the fear of being alone. It is a situation where being alone is a good thing. It means you're safe. For now.
Beginning at descent. Cruising depth in roughly 40 seconds. Stand by.
There are other games that touch on the ideas of isolation. Iron Lung might be one of the best, newer examples. As you submerge beneath the floodwaters on a distant moon, you find yourself not only diving deeper into the uncharted waters, but severing your ties with communications above. So this is a unique experience where you gradually lose connection with those above, further exposing yourself with the isolation of the ocean of blood. Unlike the vast areas present through games like Silent Hill and Dead Space, your object of isolation is a cramped, shoddily held together vessel that is the Iron Lung. Though in reality, this too mingles with the idea of not truly being alone, as there is evidence to suggest that life dwells beneath these waters, that there is an unknown entity just outside of your contained life support. But I assure you, that serves to bring the players no sense of comfort. I like the idea of Iron Lung because it has a terrifying concept to take the player and slowly strip away any signs of outworld communication, slowly, plunging them into a situation where they truly are isolated. At least, for now. Yumi Nikki might be one of my personal favorite examples of using isolation as a theme, not only in its world building where our protagonist Maritsuki finds herself in various dream worlds when she falls asleep, some populated, some not so much, but despite the desolate worlds she visits, she is usually on a solo journey. The theme of this game seems to focus on mystery and obscurity than that of the fear of the unknown. Beyond that, it's also the implication that Maritsuki chooses isolation over the company of others. The implication of her refusing to leave her house has led people to believe that she is a hikikomori, a title given in Japan to adolescents who refuse the outside world and stick to their own home instead. The lack of dialogue and storytelling is something that leaves everything up to interpretation, and is honestly interesting enough for its own video. The theme of Moritsuki traveling to desolate worlds and even shunning the world around her makes for an excellent canvas for isolation, and is a game I think you should experience at least once. Majora's Mask is a game that takes place in the world of Termina, filled with a colorful cast of characters, one that focuses on the daily lives of these people in the course of 3 days. Learning more about these people will help Link obtain masks and items that will see him leave Termina and return to his own world. So maybe you're asking how a game centered around so many people going throughout their daily lives can give you the feeling of isolation. Well, I think it's something Majora's Mask does well. It introduces you to people you've seen before from the previous game, Ocarina of Time, but somehow these people are all different from the ones you knew. They're all different people wearing the mask of people that were once familiar to you. What's more, they truly don't know you, and even if they begin to, in 3 days, it won't matter. You'll be back where you started, in a town full of familiar strangers. For a game that focuses on the idea of exploring relationships of multiple people, it does a good job at making it feel like you've never truly met any of them, leaving you to wander the land of Termina, determined to save its inhabitants from destruction, all for the reward of them never truly knowing that you may have done anything. In a world where you met so many and did so much, you can never really help the feeling that you are truly alone. So far we've explored the concepts of being alone, but with the off chance that you may not be. Talking to people who may truly never know you, ideas of self-isolation, and being subjected to gradual isolation. But going back to the original question, I ask again, what game makes you truly feel isolated? For me, these games do make me feel isolated, but perhaps not always, or not as deeply as some others. For me, the true feeling of isolation comes in the most unlikely of places, the point-and-click genre. Though I can never say for sure if intentional, so many games belonging to the point-and-click genre truly carry that feeling of being all alone and isolated. Whether by design or not, games like Drowned God, Myst, and The Witness always immerse me in the idea of it just being me and no one else. Which I find a little funny because in reality there are many signs of life in these games. There are narrative pieces like the brothers in Myst trying to navigate you through the land, and even creatures telling you about events that transpired in Drowned God. But it's something about all of these areas that seem so devoid of life and give me that chilling feeling that I could walk through these areas for all eternity and never meet another person. Whether it be the various areas so craftily detailed, but also so devoid of life that it truly makes you feel alone. It's also that feeling like at one point there was the hint of life, but you've just missed it, and you're doomed to walk through and see what it once was. And that's why my ultimate choice lies in The Witness by John Blow. This small island that contains so many different areas of different environments, so well constructed to show you that, yes, there was someone here, but they're gone now. Going as far as to show you what some may have been doing before vanishing, leaving you to wander this land all alone. It's truly something. Something I can never really feel if it was by design, but regardless lands that ultimate feeling of isolation. Isolation in its very concept is an art form, and a unique one for storytelling, where stories usually want to contain multitudes of characters with vast backgrounds. Narrating your story to the theme of being devoid of these elements is a challenge to be sure. It is not the challenge of vast inclusion, but one of minimal environment, making the narrative focus on just 2 things, the solitary subject and the vast empty world around them. These games mentioned have painted stories with the theme of isolation, and surprisingly enough, have done so in different ways, making isolation a subject so simple yet diverse at the same time, and a variable one for storytelling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to explore the art of isolation in video games. I do want to hear your answers and what games you think truly make you feel isolated. I plan to make more videos to this theme, so if you'd like, consider liking the video and subscribing if you're new. Have a great day, and keep it practical.